CrackBerry.com.
Welcome to the CrackBerry Vodcast, episode 001 from March 25th, 2013.
What's a vodcast?
A vodcast is also known as a video podcast, I think. I was just informed of that when we started that we're not doing a podcast, we're doing a podcast.
The last time we podcasted was back when we had an office in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
But now where are we?
New York.
We're in New York.
New York City, baby. And we are here, the launch of BlackBerry 10 in the US market. AT&T released it last week. This week it's T-Mobile, it's Verizon.
No Sprint.
And we weren't supposed to talk about Sprint being a bunch of until later in the show.
Okay.
But the basic premise of this vodcast, is in 20 minutes, we're going to take what we normally do in like 60 minutes and like crunch it down to 20 because BlackBerry 10 is so efficient and lets you do more in the same amount of time as other mobile operating platforms. So we're going to do that with our podcast. We're like, we're going to flow. We're going to
peek.
We're going to peek
at the future.
we're going to be efficient. And we actually have a lot to talk about in 20 minutes. So let's get right into it. Starting with, I guess, last week. What day did you fly to town? I got here Tuesday. You got here Thursday.
Yeah, I got here the day that you guys had the
interview with Thorsten Heins. Right. So awesome. If you have not watched the interview yet, you guys need to hit up CrackBerry. We'll put a link in the show notes and watch our edited video with Thorsten Heins. It was pretty awesome. Like literally from where we are, it was maybe a 10-minute walk or something to get to his hotel at the Mandarin Oriental? I think that's the name. We set things up really quick because we only had maybe 25 minutes max. So, you know, our design director who was serving double duty as videographer for the day wasn't totally happy with the setup. But come on, by CrackBerry standards, that was a freaking awesome interview.
That was beautiful.
And the interview was great. Thorsten was just so down to earth, passionate, real. I mean, you've talked about it before, Adam. He's not really like a CEO that...
For sure, yeah. I think I said it after, what was he on CNBC or CNN last week?
Piers Morgan too.
Yeah, with Piers Morgan tonight. You know, it was just like, you know, we obviously never saw anything like that in the past with Jim and Mike, but it's just, you know, the way you had the interview, you know, you're sitting across the table just kind of back and forth. Like it wasn't a full out interview. And I think just him with, you know, CrackBerry in general and you in particular, just so, you know, comfortable with each other where it's like, you know, you have that professional and personal levels, but, you know, hey, we're on camera, let's do this quick, and you're just kind of back and forth, you know, and you both get it, and it's just, it's very intriguing to watch, I think, and he's definitely not CEO-like at all, which is pretty awesome.
And it is a complete 180. I said this to Thorsten, actually. I was like, I don't know if you realize how much of a 180 BlackBerry has turned on the engagement with the community front, because, I mean, we got CrackBerry going. I started working on it in 2006. You know, we launched in 2007. And, you know, the first conference I went to, we couldn't talk to BlackBerry employees. I mean, RIM employees. They were told not to talk to, like, bloggers and journalists in the media because you didn't know what was going to end up on the internet. They like, don't talk to bloggers, we're evil. And now it's the exact opposite. And it's amazing. And I think, you know, check out the interview, but to me, the biggest thing that he said, which is awesome for our community, is we've always known it, but he said, we read the site, we watch the site, we listen to what you guys and girls say, we listen to your good feedback, we listen to your bad feedback. Well, no, constructive feedback. Sometimes it's a lot of fun, and I mean, it was pretty funny too, where he said, look, you know, we saw the build up to BlackBerry 10, we saw everybody in the US saying, oh my God, why can't I have the phone now? Why do I have to wait? But now the phone is actually here. And that night, after the Thorsten interview, then we went to the BlackBerry Fan Night, which you guys were both at. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you think of it?
It was pretty crazy. I mean, as far, you know, I guess we've been to our fair share of different events, you know, as far as parties at conferences, but just other events outside the conferences. And it was pretty crazy. It was at the Best Buy Theater, which is a pretty decent sized venue, but you know, the lineup of entertainment they had that we knew about, you know, they had Janelle Monáe, who was awesome, who I'd never seen before, and she's
so good, right? Yeah. I went to her in Winnipeg when she was out last year, and I'm just like in love with her.
They just, and I mean, they came out and kind of just pumped everybody up, and then they had Young the Giant and Z-Trip, I can't even say it. And then Luda came out, and Blaze was like, oh, Luda! I was like, what? So it was pretty crazy, and they just had food all over, and they had all kinds of little hands-on places and photo ops and everything, and there were just tons of people there.
You forgot special guest.
Special guest.
Boy Genius.
CrackBerry Kevin.
Boy Genius. It was pretty fun. I really like Geller, right? So whenever we meet up, we get into debates. We had a good 20-minute debate or something.
Yeah.
We might have him on a podcast in the future.
They're
do
both
something
very
fun with them.
opinionated, so it was an interesting.
But there's a lot of mutual respect there,
Sure.
and a lot of differing opinions, or opinions that you just don't know who will be right for weeks or months or years to come. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so the event was awesome, and it was actually pretty long. I don't know that we've ever been to because it was 5 hours, I think.
Started.
Yeah, it was
early
like
in
one
the
of
day.
those events that I don't want to say drawn out because it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was like, wow, we got other stuff to do, because we still had to go to Best Buy,
Sure.
the actual Best
Oh
Buy.
yeah.
Right.
We should talk
buy
about
device.
that.
We should. I totally forgot about. We witnessed the first American in the U.S. officially buying the BlackBerry Z10.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, you can't talk about that fan night without mentioning the greatest line ever said by a CEO on the planet.
It was pretty awesome.
You're forgetting stuff. We must be drinking while we're podcasting here. So, yeah, during the event, Thorsten Heins gets on stage, and honestly, I kind of missed the first few minutes of the video or of what he was saying. We were actually videoing what he said, but then we forgot to turn our audio on. So you'll just have to take our word for it that we're reporting this correctly. But then when he was finished talking about BlackBerry 10s here, then he says, "Now get out there and sell like hell." Everybody's like, "What?" And we're like, "That was awesome." But I think it was really smart. I mean, an event like that, there were BlackBerry fans, but there was obviously a lot of people from AT&T, I think sales reps and people like that just in the city. So for Heinz, he's really talking to his biggest influencers, guys like us, and he's talking to people literally in the front lines, helping to sell. Sell like hell is awesome.
Yeah.
And for me, it really kind of embodies, it's what we do. I've been selling BlackBerries all weekend, right? It's been pretty funny, Blaze.
Kevin is the only person I know that can walk into a Best Buy and end up beating his opinion into the Best Buy representative. It's absolutely amazing. It's like, no, you're wrong.
That one guy really made me mad.
This is why you're wrong.
There was one guy. We had some really, to be honest, we've been visiting stores over the weekend, seeing what AT&T has been doing with the devices, and we've seen a mix. If you read the forums, on CrackBerry, there's been a lot of talk that, AT&T's sandbagging the Z10 launch. Why hasn't BlackBerry done more marketing to get everything in there, in there for day one? And honestly, the stock freaking dropped on Friday too, which is a reflection of the street's reaction to what's happening in the stores.
Yeah.
God, that sounded good. The street's reaction to what's happening in the stores, and there is some truth to it, but I think the full story hasn't been told yet. Where on the AT&T front, and actually I think the U.S. carrier front, the U.S. carriers were slow in picking up and committing to BlackBerry 10.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk, it was carrier testing and all this stuff. They can take the phones when they want. Mm-hmm. I think carriers in the U.S. really wanted to wait and see what was going to happen with BlackBerry 10. They waited to see the January 30th launch event. They waited to see how it was going in Canada and elsewhere with sales, and then that's when the bigger commitments and
I think they realized when they started seeing how well everything was selling in Canada and they saw the launch event, that was when they're like, oh crap.
Maybe
we kind of should have put a little bit more weight.
And honestly, I talked to a lot of people, and I've heard stories from people who were at the carriers where things happened after that Canada launch and that where it's like, we should have made the commitment sooner. But I honestly don't blame the carriers totally, because in America the BlackBerry brand has taken a beating the last 18 months, 2 years. Yeah. So to just say hey, BlackBerry 10's here, let's throw everything at it. That if I worked for the carrier, I would be thinking cautious optimism also. But I think what happens now is they say, okay, let's get behind BlackBerry 10. In our interview with Thorsten, he talked about, being satisfied and happy with the support of the carriers. Yeah. And part of it is they want to solve the duopoly situation of iOS and Samsung, or Samsung/Android. Windows Phone hasn't been a clear number 3, even though BlackBerry gave them the last 2 years to try to take over that position. So now it's like, yeah, BlackBerry 10 can be number 3. But when you commit late to the game, I think what happens is you have other commitments as a carrier that you need to work through before you ramp up. So coming back to the AT&T kind of launch the last few days.
Feels more like a soft launch.
Feels much more like a soft launch. And I think a big part of that is there's commitments to happen. I think there's still some training in progress, in process happening. And you're going to see things pick up the next probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And also once all the carriers launch, you're going to see BlackBerry do even more on it. I mean, ideally, yes. I would rather have seen this past Friday, it's available in AT&T, there's balloons and banners, and it's like, Z10's here. That didn't happen. I think maybe the street expected it. A lot of people expected it, which is part of the reaction in the forums. But this is the start of a marathon, right? A marathon for RIM or for BlackBerry. And I think this is one of the things a lot of people are quick to not think about is BlackBerry is now back in the race. They just crossed the starting line. There isn't a finish line they're catching up to or the competition. This is like they've crossed the starting line in a race that's been ongoing. They were in it for the longest time. They fell out of it. They're back in. And it's not like it's over tomorrow if it doesn't work. They're back in, and over the weeks and months ahead, they're going to really ramp up. It's a long race. So I think that's all coming now.
And I think for a lot of people, like you said, they wanted to see those huge advertisements. They wanted the balloons and the banners and stuff like that. But there's also a certain aspect as a BlackBerry user that you're not actually seeing as well, because part of the BlackBerry Z10 marketing approach is to actually go ahead and target people who are actively using other devices. So if I pick up an iPhone and I'm browsing the web, every website knows that I'm browsing the web from an iPhone because it identifies itself as an iPhone. BlackBerry has been targeting Android and iOS with their ads. So if you're on your BlackBerry, you're not going to see as many BlackBerry Z10 ads as you would if you were using an iPhone or an Android device, because that's what they're doing. They're specifically targeting Android and iOS users, because if you have an iOS device, you'll see those ads. You click on the ad, if you're interested in it, you click on the ad, and then it takes you to the website and gives you more information about the BlackBerry Z10, and it gives you all of the typing test thing that they had. They had that set up and everything like that. So for a BlackBerry user to say, okay, well, we're not seeing the marketing. Well, you're not seeing the marketing because you're not necessarily the target audience.
They already got you.
Yeah, you're already
you're in. Spend your money.
You're already a BlackBerry user, so you're not necessarily the target audience at this present moment. They're just targeting other areas right now too.
There's no doubt BlackBerry's going to be pushing advertising and marketing efforts around the Z10
absolutely.
and Q10 like they've never pushed anything before.
We just started seeing a bunch too, even like I think it was Saturday during March Madness, the games on CBS, which are
March
huge.
Madness.
I saw a lot of Z10 commercials, which is cool.
And in the meantime, there's guys like us to sell like hell. And sell we did, because we went right from that fan event to the Best Buy at Union Square. We were there for 12:01 a.m. on the Friday, the 22nd, when the Z10 went on sale. And we witnessed the first sale by Manny, who picked it up. We got a video of him on CrackBerry, picking up his Z10. What blew me away, though, was how long in the States it takes to get a phone from AT&T via Best Buy. It was like 30 minutes later.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, there were people there. I mean, one of our forum moderators who's been around forever, Doovie, he was fifth in line.
Yeah, and he was there until like
2:30. And I was like,
because I was talking to him
this
after,
is crazy.
And he was telling me, how much of a hard time the guy was having or whatever. And I asked him if he jumped in, because he used to be an AT&T rep. I think he works for Sprint now or something. And I was like, did you jump in? He's like, well, I tried to help him at one point. Yeah. But even he said, because he knows how it works. He's like, they were just taking forever.
Slow
with
system.
So, it's kind of a drag, but.
And that's kind of like the difference. Like if I walk into a Rogers store or something like that, they pull up my account information.
It can be slow too, though. We bought those.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When we were in Toronto, we bought Erica and your mom their Z10s, and that was a little bit slow, but it wasn't like in 2 hours.
No, it wasn't.
It was like
slow.
30 minutes, and we were out the door. Right.
One thing I want to know from you guys is direct sales from BlackBerry. Wouldn't that be awesome? I just want to be able to go online, BlackBerry.com, enter my BBID, new phone shows up.
I think that would be cool. I mean, because you can buy it like outright Amazon and stuff, but that would definitely help. But even, as far as taking forever in the stores, I ordered one for my wife through AT&T because she was due for an upgrade. So I pre-ordered it. It showed up in the mail on Friday, and they make it super simple. I was confused at first because the box is already open, and you open the box and it's got a micro SIM in it, which they, it's not in the card. Like they actually take it out and put it in the phone. And then I call up from my phone, 611 or whatever, and they say, hey, we know you have a new phone to activate, and you punch in a couple numbers, your billing zip code and everything, and they're like, all right, your old stuff doesn't work, your new stuff works. And I rebooted it, and it was, maybe a 10-minute turnaround time.
Awesome.
Like it automatically
they do like the Amazon easy package.
Kills the old SIM. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. It killed her old SIM, so her old SIM was in her iPhone, and the iPhone just stopped working, and the Z10 started working, and that was it. So it's, it's a super easy process.
So what I want to know is how is Ali Zeiss liking her Z10?
She's liking it actually quite a bit. I was worried, because as soon as she got the iPhone, she texts and goes on Facebook and uses the browser and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I've told Chris many times, I'm really worried that she's going to lose all her games because she's big into Words with Friends, Scramble with Friends, Draw Something, this and that. So I made it a point over and over, to kind of subtly be like, hey, your games aren't going to work because they're not there yet. They're not there yet. The last time I'm like, I really need to let you know before I order it. Like, you're not going to be able to play your games. We can sideload a couple, maybe this and that. But she's like, yeah, make sure. Fine. I just want it to work. But she's really adopted it, and I'm super pumped to have her back on BBM, and she's been digging it. It's adjusting. She just got it on Friday, but she's figuring it out. She's funny though, because I think we talked about it before, where we're doing this and swiping and this and that, and she's still one where she holds it and she types and she does this.
So this is really interesting.
Which is probably like a whole nother hour podcast on
I'm going to call our design director, David, from behind, pseudo videographer from behind the camera to come here because he just got a Z10 2 days ago also on the weekend. Former iPhone user.
Him to my wife accidentally?
Same thing. He bought his... I watched him pick up the Z10. I was going to give him the CrackBerry Kevin tutorials, but I'm like, no, we won't do it. You're just going to pick up the phone and start using it. You took to it really well, but you totally started with the index finger thing. And then I'm like, no, use your thumb.
Yeah. She can't grasp it. I mean, I even explained it to her, because I gave her my whole tutorial. I actually showed her on the Dev Alpha and I let her play around with it. But and I'm like, you do this, and for Android apps, I'm like, you got to swipe this. So she's sitting and she she still does it because she'll type like this, but then she'll take her finger like this and swipe and stuff. And
but she's been okay with it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, she likes it. She likes the keyboard and she does it. And if I'm like, fine, if it works for you, I don't really think that's how it was intended to be used. And I told, I used the line, it's, everything's within the 45 degrees of your thumb or whatever.
Yeah.
But, but if that works for her and that's how she wants to do it, I'm not going to argue with her. But I mean, I don't know how it's.
No, but the thing that I like is she's liking it.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
David, you're really liking the Z10 so far also.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because it seems to be designed for what I want to use it for, right? So on an iPhone, I don't really use that many apps. I'm very big on Instagram, so now that I have it side-loaded, which actually isn't, from what I understand, it's not that easy. I didn't have to do it myself, but then now I'm fine. But from the point of view of communication, I'm much happier. I write more. I still find myself typing like this sometimes, and I have to remind myself to go do this.
Right.
And I think that's what it's about. It's about a point of going, you can pick this up from having used an iPhone, and you can be pissed off the whole time.
Right.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
You can just be like, this is not what I'm used to.
Right.
I hate it. If you make an effort and you start learning it, I find that it's a better communication tool. I write more. Maybe I never took the time to learn how to write more on the iPhone, but it makes me want to write more.
How about the hub and the red light? Because you've never had a blinking red light in your face before.
Yeah, I love the red light. I really like the red light because it's could be anything.
Right? It's like a mystery.
Right? Yeah.
Is it a tweet? Is it
a dirty picture? Is it an email?
No, so once that's integrated properly with Instagram, I'm set.
Okay.
Interesting. Because tweeting, Facebook messaging, and BBMing and texting and Instagramming, I'm all set.
True CrackBerry addict in the making here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming up to our 20 minutes. I want to talk lastly with you, since we have you now, and we interrupted our flow to make it an improved flow with you. Design, because
we upgraded our flow.
The flow is more flowy. Phil on Android Central, he picked up a Z10 on the weekend also. And, he broke my cardinal rule that you should use the Z10 for a week or two before you offer your thoughts on it, because you got to give it some time. But he wrote up his thoughts after 20 minutes or 20 hours. But he kind of bashed the hardware design. I forget the words he said. He kind of said it was
benign,
unoffensive, benign, and meh. Now, you have the design pedigree. Do you agree with that?
Okay,
What's your take?
Well, first, I don't know that I have the design pedigree in terms of industrial design, but from a personal point of view, just taste, I think it's a beautiful device. I think it feels like a phone. To me, having used the iPhone for so long, the iPhone's always felt really precious.
There you go, folks. Phil Nicholson has no taste.
Tasteless Phil.
I just think that it feels, I'm not so precious about it. But
It's more like a tool, right?
Yeah, it's more like a tool, and it feels, I think it's beautiful. Like
Me too.
I love new things. That's always, I have to always bear that in mind, right? I love new things.
Sure.
So, but I see no problem. I don't know what you would call meh about it, really.
No, I agree. I was just I was surprised. I mean, we've had interviews with the design team around this phone, and they're very clear what their goal was, right? They want the screen to be the showcase. It's about the operating system. They want the device to feel great in the hand. Everything is very distinctly chosen. The size of the device, they could have went bigger, they could have went smaller. They chose that size because it's optimal for two-thumb typing. Still one-handed friendly. They wanted a removable battery door, which is why there's a removable battery door, so people can swap their batteries. It's a little uglier than a one-piece unit. Yeah. I mean, maybe not ugly, but it puts a seam into it you got to deal with. But it also is a good-feeling seam. So
for a device, for a utility, I think it's really important that it's not too precious. I've had that problem with the iPhone. That I think that if you have a new iPhone, if you have a last generation iPhone and you don't put a case on it, you have too much money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because the moment it gets scratched, it just looks so ugly. Like my back is cracked, and it's just now it's the ugliest thing in the world.
I feel too. I mean, I do that in the beginning. I'm all about putting a case on it because I want to protect it. But I think like as soon as something happens to it, then you kind of like throw it out. Like I pulled something off the other day, a case, and there's like a little divot.
Oh, how'd you do that?
In the side of my phone. I don't know, because I had some soft case on it, and I pulled it off, and I was just moving it around for a review or something, and I look at it, and I thought it was something on it, so I'm scraping it, and I realized it was like a chunk, and I think I dropped at one other point without a case, so I got a little scratch, but I totally get what you're saying, like it's precious to me, obviously, because this is like, it's my BlackBerry, and I love it to death, and I want to put a case on it, but at the same time, I don't want to hide it, and it's like if I drop it and something happens to it,
it's more like
it just means I'm hardcore and
battle
I'm using it like I should,
on a BlackBerry, right?
I think that's exactly what it is.
Chicks dig scars.
My 9900, I love that phone to death, and I protected it with everything I could, but it had so many dings and nicks and stuff on it.
Now I'm paranoid to look if I got any dings or not.
I dropped mine on the hardwood floor. It obviously didn't do anything.
So
but
I feel like it's just, because I've tried, like I have the transform case here, and I got, a stack of 10 over there that I've tried, a bunch of different ones at this point, and I just can't handle throwing a case on it. So
I think we probably blew past 20 minutes by a couple minutes.
No surprise.
Just about.
But battery life, I want to talk about it, but I think we should save it for our next Vodcast. The goal is to record these whenever you show up in the New York pad here.
So you'll see
it's on
two more before the end of the year.
It's on his baby and wife letting him out of the house, and grandparents babysitting.
It's all on you, Adam.
It's all on you, Adam. No more blaming Kevin.
On your shoulders.
It's all on this guy for the first time.
Sorry, guys.
And we'll be back soon.
Once a week.
Once a week? Once a week, yeah.
Maybe once a week. I don't know.
All right.
Promises.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's it. Kevin out.
Adam out.
Ow!